Hi, good night, guys. I just want to make a point of correction. Actually, I'm not in New York City. I'm not in the United States of America. I'm actually in a foreign country. So the time is totally different. So if I didn't speak up, I mean, that probably I fall asleep. But I just wanted to log in and make sure that I let you guys know, because I tried to type it in and I couldn't find a way to type it in.
Absolutely understood. And thanks for showing off that you're someplace probably warm. That's okay.
Hot sun, British Virgin Islands. 80 degree, 81 degree. I haven't taken vacation for the past 4 years. So I was forced to take it by my job. So I'm here.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. It's Warren.
Good evening, Warren. How you doing?
Good.
Good evening, Warren. How are you?
Good. How are you, Felice?
Good, Warren.
Good.
How
to
are you,
see
Fred?
Glenn.
Hi, Felice. How you doing?
All right.
How's Hector?
Hector as well. Thank you for asking.
Good.
How are
Send
you
my
doing?
regards.
Oh, I
I'm doing
will.
well. Can't
Excellent.
complain.
That's what matters. Yeah.
Happy
That's what
that it's
matters.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So I on the 18th there is a general general meeting for the 71st precinct. I am to give that to I want to give it tomorrow because it's on the 18th to put out. Is it too late to do that? To notify everybody?
No, that's fine.
No,
Get
just
that-
send it to the board office, either right now
Okay.
or in the morning.
Okay, very good.
All right,
Thank you.
No, thank you.
No, that's great, Felice, because we've been missing those. So
Yes, and we need you. We need you, Warren. We need all of you to attend, please.
no, we always used to go to all of them. Me, Carmen, Francesca, right after, this is right after the hospital meeting. So looking forward to it.
I'll be looking for you.
I'll be there.
Or be square.
Warren, you look like a druid.
I look like, I have to tell you, it's cold in my apartment. So I am, I apologize for the hoodie, but it's.
Pay your rent, deadbeat.
No, not my rent. I'm still here, but it's the fuel bill.
Is that how they're trying to get you out?
It's not the first time, Fred.
Oh, okay, all right. All right, it is 7:04. We're going to allow a few more minutes for people to be able to join, and then we're going to call the meeting to order and we'll begin.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, good
Good
evening.
evening.
Good evening.
We're going to allow probably another 2 or 3 minutes, and then we're going to call the meeting to order.
Okay.
Just want to say hello. This is Chris calling in. Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone's well.
Hey, Chris, how you doing, sir?
Good, good. Can't complain. Thank you.
Well, it's good that you didn't complain. Otherwise, we'd have to mute you.
I mean, you know, I could complain, but I don't think anybody really cares.
No, Khalid's got the mute button. He's ready. Khalid is ready.
Hey, Christian, how are you?
How are you, Nicola?
Yeah.
Khalid, I do see one hand raised from one of the attendees. If you could just check to see.
Did I unmute? Let's see.
Yeah, Nicola?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Hi, people are trying to get in. They say that they've registered, but they haven't gotten anything. So they're trying to use the login, but getting to a registration page and can't get past the registration page.
All right, give me a second.
Okay, Nicola, Dante's looking into that right now.
Okay.
About how many people have you heard from?
3.
3?
Right. Yeah. So like when people register for the Zoom automatically sends them, not Brooklyn Community Board 9. I want to make it very clear. Zoom automatically sends them the information. So it's either in their inbox or in maybe junk or spam. It's automatic.
How long does it take? Because it wasn't automatic for me. It took few hours before I got a response back.
It took me all of less than 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's usually what happens, but that didn't happen with me when I registered. I think I registered yesterday and I got a response, I think this morning.
Bizarre. Okay.
Good evening. I just wanted to answer Nicola. Yes, so I just see that a number of people just registered for the webinar, so they should be receiving the email from Zoom shortly, confirming their confirming the link to get into the meeting.
Okay. I'll let them know.
Okay, so we're going to allow a couple of, you know, it is 7:10, and I do want to start the meeting. So Khalid, you're gonna be working in the background. You'll admit anybody else who needs to come in, correct?
Yeah. Khalid and I will.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Great. All right. So we are going to call. I see we have quorum for the board members, the executive committee. So we are going to call the meeting to order. If I could ask Warren, are you there? Would you be able to take? Would you be able to scribe for this meeting?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
I'll go get a pen.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so the time is now 7:11. We are now calling the meeting to order. I want to welcome everyone to our executive committee meeting for November 2021. My name is Fred Baptiste. I currently serve as the chair of Community Board 9. I want to welcome you to this meeting. We have a lot on our agenda for this evening. We're going to try and make sure that we push through as quickly as possible, as efficiently as possible, and we make sure that we try and answer as many questions as possible as well as we go. Now, I do ask your indulgence as well, because we do have over 10 standing committees, all functioning very, very well. So we do have a number of reports that we do need to have here. We do have an agenda we need to set for the general board meeting, which will be next week, as well as a few voting items that we will probably have this evening as well. In terms of the rules of conduct, I'm going to waive the reading of the rules of conduct for this evening. The only thing I do say is that the one hallmark, one principle we try to abide by at this board is respect. So we just ask that members of the community, members of the board, are respectful towards each other. We understand this is a place where we will not always agree. We will have differing viewpoints, but we do try our best to make sure that people are at least allowed to express those as well. But as I say that, I also ask that please make sure that we're concise. Again, we do have a jam-packed agenda. So while we will try and recognize you, please make sure that you are brief and concise in terms of any comments or questions you have as well. And with that, we are now going to move on to item 2 in the agenda, public comment. Public comment is scheduled for 30 minutes today. Anyone who wishes to speak before the executive committee, you will have a maximum of 3 minutes in which to speak. Khalid or Dante, do we have anyone who signed up for public commentary for this evening?
Signed up specifically, not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of, but I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. Okay, so at this time, for those attendees who are present who wish to speak before the executive committee, at this time, if you are online, if you would please use the raised hand function, and we will promote you to panelists so you'll be able to address the committee. You will be allowed 3 minutes. If you are on a phone, to raise your hands, you are going to use the *9 function. I repeat, to raise your hands, *9 to raise your hands. When you are promoted in, to unmute yourself, *6. And then to mute yourself again, *6. I would just also remind everyone to please remember, this is a Zoom call, so we would ask that you please keep your microphones muted if you are not speaking, just out of respect to all the other speakers, to make sure we can hear whoever does have the floor at the time and what they have to say. Okay, who do we have from the attendees list who's for speakers right now?
All right, right now I have Maxine Barnes.
Okay, Ms. Barnes, who else?
Graham Conabear. Nicola Cox. Theresa Westerdall.
Okay.
And that completes, at least for now.
Okay, that's fine. So if you could please promote Ms. Barnes to panelist.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Barnes, you should have been promoted to panelist. If you hit *6, you can, you can unmute yourself, and then you'll begin your 3 minutes for public commentary.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
You know, these firewalls are really, it's just so discouraging. I am lost for words. I'm really, really very, very emotional right now. It's like breaking through Fort Knox. First of all, this meeting, alleged webinar, is supposed to be a Zoom. You cannot join as you do a regular Zoom and just put in the passcode and the ID number. Then just to speak, you got to go through all of this, unmute and join as a panelist. Come on, guys. This is so non-inclusive and non-transparent until you should all be ashamed of yourselves. But anyway, Oh, Jesus. I would like, did the executive committee ever state clearly their mission statement for the fiscal July 22? Could I hear that? And before you mute me and cut me off, this phenomenal, I looked for the agenda, which I was not able to find. Could you put that up in the chat? Can I see the agenda? Where is the agenda? After over all of these years, I know, and I pray to God that we all understand the severity of these rezonings, spot rezonings, text amendments, and how they have played out. They have been not inclusive. They have displaced Black and brown people, as Suki, one of your board members, spoke last when she reviewed the census. It clearly documents how Black and brown people have been displaced from this community. And you are displacing us from a meeting. So I want to know clearly what your mission is. That mission ought to be to stop the rezoning and displacements of Black and brown people in this community by not including us in meetings, not hearing our voices. Everything is in this secret society. So to summarize, one, what clearly is your mission statement, Executive Committee Chair? And why are people having such a hard time getting into this meeting through this webinar when we could simply do what everyone else does, what we usually did, and get into a regular Zoom absent this webinar? Can I get answers to any of that?
Very briefly, in terms of our agenda is we serve as a community board.
Not agenda, mission.
Okay, Ms. Barnes, if you ask a question, you have to allow me to answer. If you want an answer, then I will. If you don't, then finish. You have 15 seconds left. All right. So I take it your time is concluded. But
no,
to answer
my
your
time
question,
is not concluded. I would like the answers to my question.
Ms. Barnes,
You just muted
Ms. Barnes,
me again.
Ms. Barnes,
One, where was the
mute
agenda? Two, why are you putting these firewalls so people cannot easily engage and join into this meeting? And what is the mission statement of the executive committee? And are you at all concerned, and will you move forward to stop these rezonings that are continually, as I said, based on your own board member, Suki, and the results of the last census, how in community board number 9, Black and brown people has been disproportionately eliminated and displaced from our community?
Okay, Ms.
Answer
Barnes,
that.
your time. Okay, Ms. Barnes, your time has absolutely completed. At this time, the agenda of the board is the agenda that the board sets. So the issues that come up through committee are what the board addresses. So that's how we work here as a board. With respect to the fiscal year statements, all those documents are available from the board. If you request those, they can give you that. And with respect to the Zoom, this is currently the mode in which we operate because we have a limited amount of time in which to do this. And we have a number of items we need to complete, which means we need to be very effective and efficient. And this so far has been the platform that best helps us to do that. Thank you very much for your comments. At this time, we are going to go now to Graham Conabar. I apologize if I mispronounced the name.
Good evening. I'm sorry, it took a little while to connect.
Not a problem.
No problem.
Welcome, sir. Go ahead. You're in public commentary. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I won't need that long. My wife and I wanted to join the Zoom specifically about rezoning on Empire Boulevard. I apologize if we've missed any earlier discussion on that particular point. Our concern, not surprisingly, as residents of the first block of Sterling Street, is that rezoning on Empire Boulevard, or more specifically, development on Empire Boulevard, which is certainly needed between Washington and Bedford, remains in context with the environment and the nature of the current population of this neighborhood does not get way out of spec. It's simply the comment I wanted to make. I hope it's helpful in making you aware of our concern.
No, absolutely. And thank you for coming in and participating in public commentary. That is definitely one of the questions that it is a concern in this district. And I would absolutely welcome you to come to the Euler meetings as well, where in terms of that's really the purview of that committee. That's where those conversations happen. And so you can actually get that schedule from the district office on our calendar. And our district manager is on the line as well. He's waving. So we can definitely provide you that information, and you're always welcome to come and participate as we have conversations of that nature as well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Conver. Next, I have Nicola Cox.
Nicola, you're on mute. Okay. You're unmuted, but we cannot hear your audio.
Yeah, check to see if you're, I'm not sure if your phone or computer is muted, because sometimes that's the case as well. Oh, we're getting feedback. Yeah. Nicola? All right, I'll tell you what, Nicola, we're going to mute you for now while you get that set, and we'll come right back to you. You'll be the next speaker after that. Next I have on the speakers list is Theresa Westerdall. Could you promote her?
Hi, I'm Theresa Westerdall. I live on Sullivan Place. I just wanted to ask a couple of things and address a couple of things. I've seen that you addressed the liens and it's going to be on the agenda, but I was looking at the various social media and I don't see any videos of the Euler meeting. I wanted to watch that and it's not up. Am I missing something? Did you guys put them up somewhere? Because I don't see any of the videos from that meeting or any other recent meetings. So I'd appreciate it if I could watch the videos of meetings I couldn't attend. And I too do not like the lack of transparency into who's in the meeting, being able to see everybody, the list of names. I don't like that. I realize as a panelist, I could look now, but I think everybody should be able to see that. I'm concerned about the rezonings and I'm having trouble getting information since I wasn't able to go to the meeting about Fenimore and other rezonings. What else? Well, there was something else. I know what it was. The liens. I see that there's posters about it like online, but I don't see anywhere posted the link where people can look up who has the liens that's readily available. But it would be nice for the public to have that link so they can look at it and help their neighbors. I was hoping CB9 would contact people directly through going to their houses, but I think everybody should be aware of liens in their neighborhood and CB9 be encouraging people to reach out and help people so we don't have homelessness and from people losing their homes. Okay, this is very dear subject to me because I had a friend who lost their home through a lien and predatory behavior in a different district. So I would like to emphasize that, and that CB9 do more.
Okay, all right, duly noted. Some of those points, well, first of all, Dante, do we have the links to the Euler meeting? Are they available on YouTube or Facebook Live?
Yes, if they go to YouTube, we have a YouTube page and we upload all of the videos from the meetings to YouTube because YouTube can hold the space. So if you want to rewatch any of the meetings, please go to our YouTube page. All of the videos are on there. They will always be on there.
Oh, yeah, I was looking, I couldn't find, I've watched them before, but I really want to see the Euler meeting, and I didn't see it on Facebook. I checked right before coming here earlier this week, and I checked. I haven't been able to, can you send me the link or post it in the chat, please?
We can definitely send you the link to the Euler from last week.
I mean, I'd like to, I'd like access to them all, but I really just want to watch that one because I had that other meeting and I couldn't attend.
Okay, so yeah, if you could reach out to Dante will be able to connect you or send you the link for those for the YouTube page. He'll be able to connect you with that. Okay, so yeah, there's some additional information I have with respect to the liens. I'll be discussing that. That'll be just a discussion on that during the various committee reports, and also I'll address it a little bit as well during my chairman's report. In terms of rezonings, there are no rezonings that are currently scheduled in CB9. The only application we currently have that is out there is with respect to the Fenimore Block Association for the rezoning that was approved back in 2016, 2017. I will speak a little bit to that. But otherwise, those are matters that come up right to the Euler committee. Those are discussed in public session. We encourage community participation with respect to that as well. And with respect to transparency, I think that one of the things we do try and do is make sure that we are open with information as well. If there's something you don't find, or if there's something you can't find, it's just a matter of let us know, and we'll provide it to you, or we'll let you know exactly where it's located as well. Okay.
Yeah, and I just want to pick back quickly off of that. So when we get complaints, usually complaints about these types of issues where you can't find the agenda or you can't find the minutes, we take that into account and we really try to make all of the information that's being requested, obviously, extremely accessible. So one issue that just seems to be keep coming up is people cannot find the agenda. So what we've done on our website is if you go to the calendar and you click on the specific meeting, the agenda is the first thing. It's the first thing. It used to be below, which makes sense. It could be missed. But right now, if you go on, especially today, if you look at the exec, someone had mentioned they couldn't find the exec agenda. If you go onto our calendar, click exec for today, the agenda is the first thing you'll see before you even see the Zoom credentials and other information about the meeting. So we're trying to make progress here. I definitely encourage all types of feedback because we want to make sure that the processes that we're trying to administer in the office are efficient and effective. So thank you for that information.
Yeah, I found the agenda easily. It was, that was not a problem for me. And I was happy to see the liens on that list. So I just want to make sure that that list is posted for everyone.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Westerdall. I think I see a phone number ending in 3086. Can you promote that person?
Hi, this is Alicia Boyd, and I have been unable to attend this meeting.
I'm sorry, Alicia. I think you have a computer open. Can you mute that one? Or if you have something else as well, we're getting feedback. Okay, thank you.
Okay. What I tried to get onto this meeting, and I have been unable to get onto the meeting. What I find is that first you're asking people to register for this meeting and then for a link to be sent to them. Let us be clear that the Open Meetings Law does not require anyone to do any pre-registration for any meeting. that's held by the community board. This has been a problem. People are trying to get on, they can't get on. A link is supposed to be sent to me. The link has not been sent to me. And now I can't be seen. I also noted that so that's the first problem that I have. I have the fact that you're not allowing everyone who wants to attend this meeting to attend this meeting. The second thing is we're talking about, and there's a lot of people who showed up and would like to speak about the fact that you have a rezoning in the process where CB9 is the applicant of record on this rezoning. And I'm talking about the Fenimore rezoning application. I know that you, Fred, are constantly telling everybody to go to the land use committee meetings. And when we went, we saw that the land use committee made a recommendation and passed a motion for a subcommittee to be able to sit in on those meetings. Now, we're also now being told by you that, there's nothing that we could do about this process because, it was decided 5 years ago. And I definitely know that that's not true. If this application is controlled by CB9, which it is because CB9 is the primary applicant on the application, then CB9 should be sitting in on those meetings to ensure that there's no trade-off. Because we know one of the things that was being toted around was the Department of City Planning said that they was not going to do any downzoning unless some other part of the community was going to get upzoned. So last week, the Euler committee, which you claim is such a great committee and has done such a great job and you feel so confident in their abilities, and yet when they posed this motion and they put it on the floor and they passed it, you began to say that this motion was not necessarily appropriate because a decision had already been made 5 years ago about a rezoning application that actually is being redone because the planner who created that application was fired by the Fenimore Group. And you just yourself said, at least at the beginning, that the application was being reinforced. Now, some people believe that it's probably more important to rescind the application, bring it back, let us see the application, see what's going on. But at the minimum, I believe that the subcommittee or the committee, the land use committee's motion should be supported by the executive board, even though I've never heard of the executive board having to decide whether or not a subcommittee is important enough to exist. That's not the executive board's role. Subcommittees happen all the time in committees. Committees vote to have a subcommittee, and then the subcommittee does what it's supposed to do.
You're over time. I need you to please conclude your remarks.
So I'm basically, and I know a lot of my neighbors are here to make sure that the land use committee's recommendations to have a subcommittee sit at the table and watch the Department of City Planning and Fenimore create this rezoning package to ensure that there's no quid pro quo in that, Empire or Franklin Avenue is now being upzoned in order to allow Fenimore to be downzoned. And so we're watching to ensure that does not happen.
Absolutely. Okay, but Ms. White, I need to cut you now because you're definitely over time. But we'll be discussing that as well for the report. Thank you. I do see Ms. Yard.
Hi, Fred, I'm here.
Okay, all right, you have the floor. You have 3 minutes.
What I don't understand, this meeting is supposed to be about Fenimore and them giving up Empire to get what they want, to stay down zone, but they want to up zone Empire. But I don't understand how you're having a meeting and people can't even come onto the meeting. I mean, I've never been to a CB9 meeting that I had to register and wait for a link to be emailed to me and everything. It's a lot of people that's trying to get on and they can't even get on. There's no transparency. Like, You know, you can't hear our complaints or anything because a lot of us can't get on.
All right, do you still have people who are having issues getting on?
I don't know, because I can't see them on here. I mean, I see people like texting each other saying, "Oh, I can't get on. I can't get on." So I guess they are having problems.
Well, there are a number of people who have gotten in. At this point, Khalid and Dante are still working in the background. So if anybody is coming in, if there are any requests to come in, they're approving those as they come in. So they should be able to get in if they are not already in.
Okay, one more question is, why do we have to give up our backyards for, like, you know, high-rise buildings and stuff to be built while Fenimore stays down zone? I don't think that's right. And I don't think they should make the decision for Empire, for the people living on Sterling Street. It's not right.
All right, understood. And briefly to answer your question, there is no quid pro quo in terms of Empire is not on the table. The only thing with respect to the application is the down zoning from an R6 to an R2 for the Fenimore Street Block Association. That is strictly the bounds that have been approved by the board. Any other conversations are outside of that and will be relayed to the board at the appropriate time. But
okay.
At this time, Empire is not on there. That is not a question.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. We did skip, I'm sorry, because I know Ms. Cox had her hand up before. She was having issues with the audio. Can you promote her back?
Dante, it would be nice if you could send me a link so that I can get onto this meeting without having to use Nicola Cox's link. My email address is info@mtop, info@mtopp.org. Can you send me a link, please?
I will try to do that right now. Give me just, well, yes.
Okay, Dante's going to take care of that. Now, Nicola Cox, because the other Nicola Cox, she was scheduled to give her commentary. If we can promote her, if she still has anything she wants to say. Is Nicola still there? Oh, there she is. Hello, Nicola?
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay, great. Okay, basically, after thinking about our conversation with the Euler committee last week, I thought again about that whole process, took a look at the meeting minutes from 2016 when the board originally approved being co-applicants on the Fenimore application. And I think we need to take a pause and as a board need to reflect on whether or not we really want this community board to be not only co-applicants, but lead applicants on a proposed downzoning for half of a city block. And by doing that, putting the rest of Community Board 9 potentially at risk of upzoning. We've been through 5 years of hell trying to protect this community against upzonings on Franklin Avenue. Two upzonings on Franklin Avenue. We had the Bedford Armory to deal with. We had a homeless shelter built on Rogers Avenue. Our hands have been full. And thinking about going back and looking at the notes reminded me of the urgency that Fenimore had at that time. The board was very mixed. They were very concerned about the liabilities, what potential liability the board would have if they became co-applicants. I don't know if those concerns were ever truly addressed, except for the fact that they would now be lead applicants because they are the city agency, not just co-applicants. One of the parameters was that the ULIP committee would continue to monitor the process, and they would be the key contacts going forward. If this rezoning application was dusted off and restarted, then Euler should have been at the table from the beginning this summer. The fact that we were not at the table, the fact that it was 5 years, there was no urgency, given the fact that Fenimore sat on this for 5 years, that they couldn't wait a few more weeks until the Euler committee had reconvened. And given the fact that it's been 5 years, I don't even know where we stand with Fenimore. They don't have the same planner. DCP has a new contact. We have new chair, we have new board members. It's a whole, our experience with DCP, we have a lot of lessons learned on what they have done to other communities as part of a rezoning, whether the community wanted it or not. They opened the door presenting one application and they ended up with something very different. I don't want that to happen to our community board. I think we need to be very measured in how we approach this, because this is a Pandora's box that once we open it, we may not be able to close it. One person asked, can the community board opt out at any time? I don't know if that question was ever answered. So I think that there are a number of questions that need to be addressed. We have board members that have absolutely no idea of what I'm talking about because they were not part of the board when this application was first presented. We have a district manager that wasn't here. I think we need to pause, go back, reflect on this from the beginning and not try and pick it up halfway.
Okay, thank you, Nick.
My comments.
Nicola, I'm not sure if you're around, Miss Boyd. I did send an email so with the link, so she should receive it. Khalid and I both sent one. So she should be able to get into the meeting.
Okay, I'll send her a text and let her know that she should have a link waiting for her.
Yeah, there should be 2 coming into it. Thank you very much.
And the board members, if you want to look at what's happening to Soho NoHo, what's happening to Gowanus, Soho NoHo definitely started a process where all they wanted was to manage the big box stores that were coming into their area, and now they're getting upzoned. And so we need to be very careful about what is being set up with city planning, because once you open the door and let them in, you may not be able to get them back out.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Cox.
Thank you.
All right, I do see one last, we will recognize Suki Chung, and then I think we are almost out of time. We are about out of time for the public commentary. Go ahead, Suki.
Yeah, just to speak to some of the concerns about rezoning, the one successful example I know of a downzoning over the last year to the Fenimore Street proposed rezoning, and it was 1/2 of one block in Woodlawn that was downzoned from an R7 to an R4 because it was all houses. The Soho NoHo and Gowanus rezonings are really quite different. They were not proposed by community groups. They were proposed either by business groups or by the Department of City Planning itself. And as far as I know, nobody at the Department of City Planning has suggested any type of a broader rezoning. The requests in this community have come from developers that want to upzone their individual sites. And that will continue regardless of whether or not we do these rezonings, because they're allowed to do that under, the MIH law. And even without MIH, they're going to come to us to ask for variances, which is exactly what happened at the last Euler meeting. There was a developer on Troy and Carroll who is looking to extend his.
Okay, all right, thank you, Suki. All right, I think we have exhausted the speakers list. I think we're out of time as well for the period of public commentary allotted. I do want to thank all those who provided commentary. And again, I do invite for extended conversation, I refer everyone to the committees in terms of that's where the actual policy proposals begin, have their conversations. That's where those plans are developed for consideration by the full board. But we are taking into account all the testimony provided today as we go forward, as well as in terms of how we proceed as a board. Okay, at this time, we are now going to go on to item 3, committee chair check-ins. So at this time, let me see who I see here. In no particular order. Actually, I see Christian Lebeau. Are you for the Environmental Protection Committee? Do you have a report you wish to provide?
Sure. Thanks, everyone. I'll be brief. We met last Tuesday. It was a good meeting. Thanks to all the committee members for attending. We decided to champion 4 different ideas for the next 7 months. The first one is an environmental fair for the springtime. And I believe we'll be partnering with the Parks Committee and Nicola on that. I saw the information that went out today in terms of the program proposals and the importance of, well, first adopting these planned events by committee vote and then putting forth a proposal for a budget. So Theresa graciously offered to work on this fair. Teresa's our vice chair. And Nicola was in the meeting and expressed interest in partnering on it as well. So that's the first thing. The second thing that we'll be focusing on is the replacement of trash bins and receptacles. The third thing we'll be focusing on is really getting down to the nitty gritty of parking enforcement, because parking enforcement is having an effect on sanitation and the ability of the broom to sweep our streets in Crown Heights and Wingate and Flatbush and Prospect Lefferts Gardens. So thanks to Dante for putting together a meeting with Super Rice on that. And then the last thing is the planting of rain gardens. Matt is going to be championing that issue, and we'll be exploring to see how we can bring more rain gardens to CB9. So that's all I have. Thanks very much. And I'm ready to partner and support any of the committee members on their issues, and welcome more attendance and participation from folks who want to join our next meeting on December 7th. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We will take a couple of quick questions for the Environmental Protection Chair. All right, Dante, I see you have a quick question. We'll take it real quick. Dante and Maxine Barnes.
No,
No. Maxine Barnes.
For some unknown reason, there's another individual on this call that has my name as themselves as an attendee, and I'm not sure how that's even possible. I'm honored, but I don't have any clue, so there's some error.
Okay, they do have a question. Promote them and rename them.
Okay,
if that's possible.
If you wasn't playing so many games with muting people and taking people out and putting people in, I wouldn't have Dante as a surname. I would have my name.
Ms. Boyd, that's fine. What is your question? What is your question for the EP chair?
That is what I'm saying. I'm saying that this whole meeting, as far as pulling people out and putting people in and taking them out of here and not taking them there and putting other people's names on it, Dante is now saying, I don't know I don't know.
Ms. Boyd, we do have agenda. Do you have a question specifically for the Environmental Protection Chair?
How are you going to sit there and fix this? How are you going to fix this that people can come to these meetings, be seen and heard without being pushed back into the unknown and not seen or heard? It's ridiculous. I've been trying to get into this meeting in a decent manner for the last 45 minutes. How many times have I been thrown out of the meeting just to be put back into the meeting? It's ridiculous.
We are doing what we can. Thank you for your question. I see Maxine Barnes, and then we're going to move on to the next chair.
Hello?
Yes, Ms. Barnes. Your question for the Environmental Protection?
No, it's not a question. I am just so discouraged. The agenda is.
Okay, Ms. Barnes, Do you have a question specifically?
This is so
Do you have a question specifically for environmental
Why
protection?
are we not following the open meetings law and letting?
Thank you, Ms. Barnes. Thank you very much, Ms.
That's
Barnes.
my
Please
question.
move her back to attendees. Thank you. Just a word for all members. We need to move this agenda very quickly. We are going to try and entertain questions as much as possible, but let's make them germane to the topic, germane to the person who's reporting, and something that's, with respect to the area they're reporting on. Thank you. We are now going to move on. I do see, with respect to committees, Second Vice Chair Francisco Leopold. Fran, do you have a report for Health and Social Services?
Not much of a report really. We met on the 4th. We're trying to work with Ms. Faith Browns. She has this project that she's working with for the schools, and then we're trying to see if we could reach out to schools so that she could bring in healthy eating to schools. So this is something that the district manager and I we will be talking about, because we have to schedule appointments with the principals at the schools to see, how best we can do that. It is very important for our children, and then the program that she has is a very good program. And there is nothing much happening right now. What we are just trying to plan for the next quarter and reach out to our seniors, because our senior centers has been closed down since COVID. And then we are not really able to reach out to them. Most of them, they're still home. St. Gabriel, the majority of the seniors, they are the same complex because they're in the Nitro building, so adjacent to the senior center. So we have not been able to really have dialogue or even trying to reach out to some of the directors to find out what are the needs, what's really happening with them. So right now we are trying to do that, and there are other entities in the community who are trying to work with seniors in the community, and we are trying to collaborate with them so we can see what the different services that we could bring to our seniors in the community. But it is very important that we reach out to our seniors and see how things are going on with them. But because of COVID, as I said, it's very difficult to reach out to some of the directors. So that's basically what's happening right now. So we are just really trying to, put things together for the next quarter. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. We will entertain a couple of questions for the Health and Social Services Chair. All right, I see Suki, I see your name. Let me just take a list very quickly. I see Ms. Westerdall. Hold on one second. And I see Maxine Barnes, and we'll conclude on Ms. Barnes. Go ahead, Suki.
Yeah, my apologies. My question was actually for the previous chair, Chris, and maybe also Dante. Were you ever able to get a representative from DEP to speak to some of the flood risk issues, which are actually throughout the community? I think it's really most of the avenue, and then a significant area around Fenimore and Bedford, Sterling and Bedford, Empire and Bedford, and I think the area around Miami Court was also like a big flood risk area, was what I remember.
Yeah, if I recall, some of those.
So were they ever able to address like what the cause of that was?
No, well, let me start like this. Those specific questions have not been asked yet. Some of those issues specifically went into the district needs statement. So once that is finalized, that is my platform. That's my tool to start those conversations, right? Because then they're on the record. Okay. We can have these conversations. And then of course, whoever wants to be involved, we can have those conversations. But yes, once the district needs statement gets finalized, because I don't think that all of the locations that you were specifically talking about were in the district needs statement prior. So once it gets finalized, those conversations can without a doubt start to happen.
Okay.
I would just add to that
Okay.
too, and I'm
And
sorry, I got
just to let you know, like, oh, go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
Sorry, I got disconnected
No,
before, and I am gonna have to jump off. But I would just add to what Dante said, is that, you know, one thing we're looking to do is address multiple issues through partnering with the city agencies. And I think working with sanitation on the broom sweep will hopefully address some of the litter that's clogging catch basins, which then contributes to flooding. And so everything is tied together, but of course, welcome more engagement on the question of flooding in those specific areas where we have those data points. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Ms. Westerdall? So I have next on the question is Ms. Westerdall, and we're going to conclude on Maxine Barnes. So Ms. Westerdall?
Yeah, she's coming in right now. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm in my hall. Sorry, I'm in my hall. Yeah, I just wanted to speak on, well, first, what's happening to Alicia happened to me too. Remember when I was Neo? And I don't know why that happened to me either. So I think
Right,
it's.
I understand, Ms. Westerdall, but listen, we need to move this. Do you have a question specifically for health and social services?
All right, well, besides that, I want to invite everybody to put in for the environmental fair that we're gonna have in the spring. If you have any ideas, contributions, share it with your committees, and please join us. We're gonna talk about composting and some other
Ms.
issues.
Westerdall, do you have a question? I'm sorry, but do you have a question for the health and social services?
Comment
This
on
is
the
a,
environmental committee. That's
I'm
what I
sorry?
was. I just wanted to comment on the environmental committee.
No, understood, but we've already passed that on the agenda at this point. If you do have an announcement, please feel free to send that to the office.
And you didn't call in me, so, okay.
Right, we have limited questions, so I can't take all questions. We're taking a couple as we can. Okay, thank you. All right, Ms. Barnes?
Okay, in terms of the environmental protection, environmental committee and health, the Block Association and me as emeritus president of my Block Association, we had spearheaded and spoke to the superintendent of the sanitation way before Dante said one word, but that's okay.
No,
Let me finish. But moving
Ms. Barnes, I need you to keep it focused on health and social services.
But
We've moved on
Dante,
the agenda, please.
did not answer. In terms of the MTA, Superintendent Rice explained to me that was an MTA issue, the raised platform and the Nostrand bus stop between Empire and Sterling Streets. The catch basin was improperly installed, and you never got back to me. Could you please answer? Did you reach out to the MTA? I know you are astute with your inter-city agencies expertise, but you never answered me. Please answer me, Dante, on the MTA bus raised stop on Nostrand between Sterling and Empire. Could you do that?
Yes, so multiple agencies.
No, you don't. Go ahead and email me the answer, but go ahead, thanks.
Oh, okay. Yeah, multiple agencies were brought to the table. What we did find out is it's not an MTA issue, so that information is incorrect. It is actually a DOT issue, and we have been working, well, I would say diligently with DOT to have that issue resolved. That issue was actually brought up in last month's transportation meeting and this month's transportation meeting. And I can, well, without a doubt, I've been in constant contact with Diana at DOT, and I have asked her if it was cleaned. To my knowledge, it was cleaned, but it did not seem that it was cleaned when I visited. So I have reached back out already to Diana to have DOT relook at the bus stop because under the grading, the trash was not cleaned. I know sanitation did go out before and clean up around the area, but that specific bus stop is a DOT issue. And essentially I send the email, I send the request, and I have to wait for DOT to make that response. But it was brought up in transportation again. So it's on our radar, it's on their radar. And once they resolve that issue, I should be informed. But I usually email them a week, 2 weeks, just to follow up. But that's where we're at. It's a DOT issue and we're waiting for them to clean it.
Okay, well, unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it to the Transportation Committee meeting. And again, I reached out and requested an answer for you several times, and you didn't answer. So if you could still put that in the email, because I could have easily spoke to the superintendent myself, but you didn't answer, Dante. Thank you.
Okay.
Email.
We are now going to move on. I'm flying a little blind. My computer went down. It's coming back up. But at this time, I know I did see the Transportation Committee. Carmen, are you still on the line?
Hello?
Yes, Carmen, do you have a report for transportation this evening?
Yes, I do. Excuse me if you hear noise, but I'm in the street. Yes, the Transportation Committee met. As a matter of fact, we did deal with the issue that Dante just discussed with the grading at the bus stop with DOT. So we are waiting for feedback from them. In addition, we had a presentation on the Washington Avenue Capital Project. The Transportation Committee is really not happy about the project because they are using data that's over 5 years old to move forward with the project within the next year. And our concern are that the data is outdated. Things have changed since COVID. They have not actually had communication with the 3 schools that are in the area that are going to be affected by this capital project. Felice Robinson, as well as Valerie, that live in the immediate area, also expressed their concern. And the Transportation Committee offered other alternatives to what they are presenting. So we really didn't get to vote on whether or not to have them present to the board. But I think that in view of the fact that this is a project that's going to affect the community, we need to bring them before the board so that they can hear concerns, not just from the Transportation Committee members and the residents that were in attendance, but from the other board members, as well as community residents that will be in attendance at the general meeting, to have DOT revisit that project and take more community input into consideration. We don't want to have a situation that we're having now with the Parkside Protected Bicycle project that is now causing delays for emergency vehicle and endangering the lives of those people that are being transported by those emergency vehicles, because that project also was developed with outdated data. So I respectfully ask if possible for DOT to be invited to present to the general board meeting so that they can hear from the board members as well as community residents their concerns about their proposed capital project for Washington Avenue. That's my report.
Okay, thank you very much for that. At this time, we will take a couple of questions for the transportation chair. Bear with me 1 second.
Only hand I see is Warren Burke.
Oh, no, I just wanted to give my report for the Economic Development Committee.
Fair enough. Okay, so just bear with us 1 second then. Okay. All All right, so Carmen, your request is to invite DOT. Do you know about how long their presentation would be?
About 15 minutes.
15, okay. All right, we'll take that into consideration as we do the schedule for the general board meeting. The November meeting typically is, and December meetings typically are shorter. So absolutely, if we were a little bit, light in the agenda, we can probably spare the 15 minutes. If not, is it possible, can we defer them to December, or is it more time sensitive?
I think it can wait until December. If need to. I mean, I would rather for them to hear concerns now, but if we have to, I'm good with December.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you for that. So we'll consider that as we set the agenda later on. I do see Ms. Lewis, and then we're going to close on Ms. Lewis. Melanie, did you have a question for transportation? Ms. Lewis, are you there?
I think she has some technical issues.
Understood. Okay. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Okay. We'll come back if anything. We'll allow her to ask. All right. So at this time, since he's ready and eager, we will hear from the Economic Development Committee. Mr. Burke, first vice chair.
Thank you. I am eager. I have some very positive things to report. The first thing is the fresh food market on Nordstrom and Empire has been a very big success for our community. And the important part of that is how it affects the future. And I do believe that we'll be continuing for the next 3 years at a location around Nordstrom and Empire. So we're very proud of that. Number two, in terms of shop local, the committee has decided to do like a spring fling and hook at the smorgasbord on, what is that name? Lincoln Road. And we'll be currently implementing that. So thank you.
Warren, you still there?
Yeah. I think I think he's finished with his report.
Yeah, I'm finished with my report. I did not play the music, even though it was enjoyable.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any questions for economic development? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much for that report. I see the chair for education and library here. Ms. Lewis, do you have a report you wish to present?
Yes, I do. And I wanted to apologize. Someone attempted to call me right in the middle of our Zoom and I got totally knocked off. I did have a question for our very own Ms. Carmen. So apologies for that. I understand that we've moved on in the agenda, but it was related to schools and those schools that you were referring to in your report. So I guess I'll just get back in touch with you in relation to that. But good evening, everyone. The Education Committee met on Thursday, November 4th. In that particular meeting, we were happy to be able to greet our new members, remind our community about the specialized high school admissions test, in which there was a deadline of November 15th. We were happy to be able to welcome officially the 6th president of Medgar Evers College, first woman president of Medgar Evers College, welcoming President Patricia Ramsey to Community Board 9 officially. On behalf of the committee, we wanted to remind community members that the City University of New York is accepting spring applications. As far as our open action items, we wanted to make everyone aware that we're accepting candidates for vice chair, secretary, and treasurer, and we did accept from the floor those that were interested in those positions. And we made everyone aware that they could still send an email to bk09-1@cb.nyc.gov if they're interested in those positions. So if you're interested in the committee and you hear me, you hear the sound of my voice, you're welcome to join us. You're welcome to join the education committee. Just email cb09-1@cb.nyc.gov and just make us aware that you're interested in joining the committee as well as those particular positions. We will be officially announcing all those that expressed interest as well voting in our next meeting in December. Also, we discussed calendar items for December, January, and February, as well as the upcoming year. And one of the great big takeaways were the fact that we want to definitely continue with the book giveaways that we have been successfully completing in the last given consecutive year. The book giveaways have been really great, and we're looking to do another one actually during the holidays. And so what we did do is the board voted to have a book giveaway in December. We conferred with our community board and our district office, and we were made aware that Saturday, December 18th is a good day where we will be able to have support from the district office as well. So we're looking to have a book giveaway. So we're seeking approval from the board for us to be able to have a book giveaway on Saturday, December 18th. The book fair would be from 11 to 2 o'clock p.m. It would take place in front of our Community Board 9 office. We have done this before. It has been successful. There's not much that we need. We're looking to put up the tent, put some light on the tent, and just be festive in giving books out in our community. So we're seeking approval for the board on that. Lastly, some other initiatives is a Spelling Bee and Jackie Robinson Day. We're looking to, have representatives from our community education, our CEC 17 to join us. And we were just like discussing youth education liaison, social media liaison. We just want to be able to make sure we have these different representatives at our meeting so that our community can be well-versed and well-informed on what's going on. I digress now. I know we have an agenda. And so again, I'm seeking board approval for us to be able to have the book fair giveaway on Saturday, December 18th, 11 to 2 o'clock p.m. And our next meeting is going to be on Thursday, December 2nd. So all are welcome to join us virtually.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So in your report, I heard one action item for the executive committee to approve. We're going to take that item up after the chairman's report. So once we conclude all the reports, we'll take it up and we'll vote on that as well.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we will take a couple of questions for the education chair. I do see, Suki, I see your hand up. Hold on one second as I create the list. I see one additional question from Ms. Boyd, and then we are going to close on Ms. Boyd. Okay, Suki, your question is?
Quick question on the book giveaway. Are these new books or are you accepting donations of used books? Because I actually have a ton of books to give away, and I was just talking to another neighbor who does too.
Oh, thank you so much for offering that. We really appreciate that. Well, most of the books that we have, we've actually been able to get them through a grant. Our book fair giveaway, I would actually tell you, well, I should have included that, is actually an award-winning book fair giveaway. We have a grant. We usually get a grant through the book fair book diaries, if I'm saying it correctly. And so they usually donate the books, and they're usually new books that we get each year. But certainly I will definitely reach out if we are in need of any additional books. So I'll definitely, reach out to you, and I appreciate that offer.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Could you please promote Ms. Boyd for her question for education?
I'm a little confused about who the executive board members are and who are the board members. There's a lot of people who are attending this meeting for the first time. I know I'm attending the executive board meeting for the first time. I don't know who's an executive board member because there's no indication on it, and who is just a community board member. I'm not sure why that is. Why is it that we can't know who are the executive board members? Like, is Miss Lewis an executive?
Ms. Boyd, do you have a question for the
Yeah, that is
education
the
chair?
question. The question is Miss
Okay.
Lewis a
Get to
board?
that. So if you let that happen, I will address that and I'll ask board members to please identify themselves.
Is she
Your question for Ms. Lewis is?
Is she an executive board member or is she just a board member?
She is the chair of the Education and Library Committee, which is how we introduced her.
Right, but is she also an executive board member?
No, she is a chair. The chairs report to the executive committee.
I'm aware how
participate in
it
the
works,
committee
but
meetings.
Warren is
Okay,
a vice
well-
chair, correct? And he's also
well-
the chair of the economic committee.
That
So-
is correct. So as your question's been answered, thank you very much, Ms. Boyd. All right, we are going to close on that. We are now going to move, bear with me 1 second. We have Mr. Almanor, Chair of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs.
Good evening, everyone. Just to give a quick report for the Committee of Park, Recreation, and Culture. We just met last night, so I'm just going to give you a brief summary of what we cover as I'm awaiting the exact minutes of the meeting, and I'm sure you'll be able to go to the YouTube channel to view the meeting. So this was our second meeting for this current season, where things went. This was a great week. Still glad about the botanical garden, which was very, very informational, and especially the point I would like to stress about that is the ability for the community, especially in the fall and winter, to be able to go and use the botanical garden for free. So you could see that information by watching the YouTube channel. What we have established in this particular committee is a liaison to various cultural institutions within CB9, and we got a report from each of the people that were volunteered to liaison with the different cultural institutions, the Prospect Park Alliance, Brooklyn Museum, and so on and so forth. Like I said, I'm trying to do it off of my head quite a lot, so you could see that around when the minutes are reported. We had one liaison for the community garden and green spaces because we wanted to pay attention to who has volunteered to do that, and it's going to work very well hard so we could provide support and get information about green spaces. And now we're able to elect a vice chair and choose a permanent secretary. And we are looking forward to plan for something we're calling CB9 Family Fun Fair Day, which is going to be at the subsequent meeting. And to as many committees as possible, initiative obtained. So we'll be getting regular updates from different institutions, what's going on over there. So we could also put that information to the board so the whole community board will be informed. So that's all I have for now. If you have any questions, I'm ready to take some of those questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Almanor. We will take a couple of questions for the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs Committee. I do see a question from Ms. Boyd. That is the only hand I see raised. We are going to close on Ms. Boyd. You can promote Ms. Boyd to the panelists, please.
Again, is Nicholas Almanor an executive board member?
Yes, he is the chair of, well, he serves two roles. One, he is a member at large, so he serves on the executive committee, and he is also chair of the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs Committee.
So again, it would be nice if we can know who the executive board committee members are.
Do you have a question for the
That was the
for the chair
question.
of Parks, Recreation?
That was the question.
Thank you.
Question about my thoughts.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, I would ask for all those board members, if you could please, if you are a member of the executive committee or if you are a committee chair, if you could please alter your
I'm doing
your
it.
names, your labels.
I'm doing it.
Oh, it's being done by the district office. Okay, so if you haven't done it, well, actually, it's being done for you as well. But thank you very much for that. Let's see. Do I see any other chairs present? I do not. Okay, so at this time, I'm going to give reports for housing and Euler. So at this time, I still have not made appointments for the housing and Euler committees, though the chairmanships or the chairpersonships for those committees are still being are under consideration. So at this time, I am appointing people from the executive committee to serve ad hoc until we have those decisions made. So once that's done, they'll be promoted. They will be the respective committees will be advised in terms of who's going to be serving as chair, and they will take on performing the agendas and chairing the meetings going forward. So with respect, the first meeting was housing. Housing was held on November 3rd. So there was a presentation by Brooklyn Neighborhood Housing Services. Mr. McDonald and Mr. Tobin from NHS came and they talked a little bit about the services that NHS provides. They've been a partner of CB9 in this community for a number of years now. Phenomenal. They discussed the Home First Grant Program, which assists first-time buyers that they're actually administering. So if you make up to 80% of AMI, you can receive up to $100,000 in assistance in terms of first-time home purchase. They also provide workshops and one-on-one counseling for homeownership promotion, housing preservation, and they also discussed at length property management services that they offer now as well. One of the things mentioned was there are scholarships that State Senator Kevin Parker, who is on our southern border, is offering with respect to seniors, where he is offering scholarships for them to have property management services. In the committee meeting, it came up that we approached State Senator Zelnor Myrie to see if he might be interested as well. So we've made the outreach. We're waiting to hear back from his office to have a conversation with respect to that. And we will report that to the committee once we get word with respect to that. Also, we discussed committee roles and expectations. The committee will be setting its priorities at the next meeting. So we just did some initial brainstorming. And at the next meeting, the committee is expected to come and set their agenda for the rest of the year. There were no action items other than for contact by the board to State Senator Zelnor Myrie's office. At this time, I will take any questions for housing. Okay, I see one question from Ms. Boyd. And, well, hold on.
And Suki.
And one question from Suki.
Yeah.
All right, we will take those two questions and close on that. Please promote Ms. Boyd.
Did you write the letter, Fred, to Senator Zelnor Myrie?
No, I reached out to his office. So I spoke with one of his staffers. So they're trying to make the connection in terms of having the conversation with him directly.
So wasn't the request for you to put it in writing?
Right, I reached out to his office so I could speak to him and we will see.
In writing, I just said in writing.
Okay, and I reached out to his office. So I did not write anything, I reached out to his office.
And you expect when is the return? When do you
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I expect to have. Definitely commentary by the time we have the next housing committee meeting. But I've reached out to him.
And who have you chosen to be the chair of the housing committee?
A chair hasn't been selected as yet.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Boyd. Suki?
Last year, we had somebody from the Washington Avenue apartment building. I think it might be 1000 Washington Avenue, near the corner of Empire, come to the Euler committee to complain about a building that was going up at the corner right in front of their building, and it was going to block fire exits and windows and just cause a lot of serious problems. And we wrote to the DOB and got a stop work order, but I recently noticed that that building is now going up. It's almost, the structure is almost up, and it is of course blocking the windows. And so I wonder if, you know, we're still in contact with those tenants and if we should follow up to, you know, make sure that whatever safety measures that needed to be taken were taken.
I know that there was an initial outreach.
I mean, I don't know if
to,
there was some discussion about whether this should be a housing issue or a ULURP issue, but, you know, it just occurred to me.
Right. No, I think I recall the issue, and I think that was taken up by the district office. So I know that there were some conversations. I'm not sure if there are current safety issues. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Dante, could you speak to that? Was that addressed, or are there any current issues or current reports, I should say?
What building is this? Because this sounds like it might predate me, because I have never heard of this.
Yes, it does. I think
Okay.
that it does. Yeah, it was like right around the time that you came on.
Okay.
No, that's okay. That's true. So
I
Mia may
think
have
it
an
might be
update with
1000
respect to that.
Washington.
1000 Washington. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I do recall. I think I vaguely recall the incident, and I do want to say Mia may have additional information, but I know that there was outreach to the Department of Buildings. If I recall correctly, there might have been outreach to the council member's office as well. So there were some conversations that happened. I cannot remember the resolution, but Suki, if you contact the office, we can advise on any steps and if there's any other reports that happen to that.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Okay. Okay.
Hi,
All
it's
right,
Warren. Excuse me,
yes.
Fred. I remember that exactly. The big question was egress. There was one egress from the front, and the question was there a second egress? So while I don't know the resolution of that, I know it was brought to the Department of Buildings' attention. So it should be very easy to find the answer. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. I'll send some emails. Appreciate it.
Okay.
It's important.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, that concludes the housing report. Now going to go to the ULURP committee report. So the ULURP met on November 9th. ULURP currently is one of the committees that does not have an appointed chair as well. So I served as the ad hoc chair for that meeting. At that meeting, we had presentations by the New York City Board of Standards and Appeals, the BSA. So we had the vice chair commissioner, Shampa Chanda. She came and she presented before the committee. She provided a background on the agency, on the nature of the applications the BSA actually receives and it considers, and advised on the role of community boards within that process. That was very helpful, especially because the second presentation that we had was from Mr. Jay Goldstein, who represents Carroll Gardens Realty. They had submitted a BSA, they submitted to BSA with respect to the property on 341-349 Troy Avenue. The application itself is actually something that BSA had approved a number of years ago, about 11 years ago. So what happens is they submitted to BSA, they have not completed the project, and there's a timeline by which they're supposed to do that. So they submitted to BSA to get an extension on the project. From the understanding we have, there are no substantive changes that are being made. It is simply an extension of 4 years, for 4 years, to enable them to be able to break ground. I think there's some remediation that needs to be done on the property because there used to be gas stations there. So they need time to be able to do that, get the required permits, put in all the appropriate plans with all the appropriate agencies, and do the construction. The applicant said that this would probably take less than the 4 years, but they wanted to make sure that there was enough time in there so that way they would not have to come back for another extension. Also provided an update with respect to the Fenimore Street Block Association rezoning. And actually, I will leave that. I will actually have a discussion on that as part of the chair's report. But there was a motion to create a subcommittee on the Euler committee to provide oversight on the application that was moved and approved by the committee. With that committee as well, there was a discussion on the roles and expectations, committee priorities. Under new business, a resident had made an inquiry with respect to the 60-day tax lien notice. I advised at that time that that would be something proper for the housing committee, but it was brought to my attention that because of the timing where the application would act, well, actually, I'm sorry, the lien sales would happen by December 19th, that the housing committee wouldn't have enough time to go in and act or do any actions. So at that time, we made the commitment that we would work, I would work with the district office, and we would report to the executive committee in terms of what actions CB9 would be able to take at this time with respect to the 60-day tax lien notices. And that completes the, that completes the report for Euler. At this time, I will entertain a couple of questions for the Euler committee. Okay, I see Suki. I see Ms. Boyd, and I see Ms. Westerdall, and we will close on Ms. Westerdall. Okay, Suki?
So with respect to the variance application, which was, I think, like the corner of Troy and Carroll, I realized, you know, you were saying that you were going to reach out to the BSA and, maybe get their take on things, and then next meeting we would discuss it again and decide what to do. But if we wait until like the beginning of December, are we going to have enough time to hold a community hearing if that's what we decide to do? Because I did realize that, none of us there that night, like nobody on the committee, is actually from that section of the community. And the original variance application from 2010 was actually voted down by CB9 at the time. I don't know if you were on the board at that time, but I certainly wasn't. And the record only states that they voted it down because they thought the building was too large, but it got approved anyway because the board found financial hardship. But, given that this is 12 years later and they blew, they reapplied so many times and then they blew it sounded like the board kind of gave them a final deadline and, got sort of, like threw up their hands and said, this is it, guys. And they blew the final deadline. There's, there's a possibility that they don't approve it again. And, do you reevaluate it in light of today's market conditions, which obviously is up to the board, but the board may be looking to us, to the community, to discuss what they want in the first instance. So, do we ask the full board to, at least to take a look at this? Because maybe there are members who live closer to there who might have something to say. I don't know.
Okay, thank you for, okay, I'm not sure what the question is, but I think that'll be something for.
I guess what I'm asking is, should we bring the presentation to the full board and at least, ask if we should hold a community hearing instead of waiting until our next Euler meeting, because then it might be too late, because they, didn't they say we have like 60 days or something like that?
They said typically 60 days, but there's some additional information. We did say we were going to do some outreach. So Dante has reached out. I believe he may address that.
Yeah.
Dante, if you could address that as part of your administrative report, and then we'll discuss disposition of the matter after that. Okay.
You're talking,
Ms. Boyd.
this is for the BSA application.
Correct.
Yes.
I did not attend the Euler meeting. I haven't sent any additional information. I haven't reached out to anyone. So I'm not sure what came of the Euler meeting. Maybe that's a discussion that needs to be had. But I can't think of off the top of my head that I was supposed to reach out to someone.
All right, so you didn't have a conversation with BSA?
No. The only thing that I've done with BSA is invited them to the Euler meeting, and they presented last week.
Okay, all right. Thank you. All right, Ms. Boyd?
Because I was at the Euler meeting, I specifically heard the motion that was put on the floor, and it was very specific. It stated that a subcommittee should be formed and that a letter should be sent to DCP, letting them know that the subcommittee wanted to be kept informed and invited to all future meetings. Has that letter been created by the board, because it was passed through the Euler committee and thus it should be done? And who is leading the subcommittee to ensure that the subcommittee is now meeting and will be attending those meetings with DCP?
A letter has not been drafted, and I do have additional, I do intend to discuss that during my chairman's report as well. So there'll be discussion on that as well.
On what as well?
With respect to the subcommittee that was approved by, that was moved by the Euler committee. So I will have that as part of my discussion on my chairman's report.
So you're not going to discuss it as a report of the Euler, you're discussing it as a chairperson's report.
I reported the motion that happened, and I'm going to discuss that as well during my chairman's report.
So no letter has been created by the board to send to DCP to let them know that moving forward, because CB9 is on the application, that they should be kept informed of all meetings concerning
We can cut it short. Yes, no letter has been written, and I will discuss it during my chairman's report.
And there's
Ms.
nobody
Westerdall,
currently spearheading the subcommittee.
there was no movement towards that, and I will discuss that as well during my chairman's report. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Westerdall.
Hi, this is Teresa. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, I just wanted to, back to the liens. I wanted to make sure that CB9 is sending out a link and information about looking at the report, at the liens report, and putting forth the, there's a specific number to look at, so people can look at their, I think it's 309, to search for that on the list and find out where in your neighborhood there are people that may be in need of information and reach out to them in person. I'm hoping CB9 does that. Also, I find it concerning that Fred as chair is heading up both the land use, your LIP committee, and the housing committee, and nobody's been appointed to be chairs of those committees. I mean, why is that? I don't think it's okay. It sounds divisive with so much controversy in this neighborhood regarding rezoning. It feels like, wow, why is our chairperson the chair of two committees surrounding housing when we're having a sort of desperate time with that? And I would emphasize that, the meeting was delayed for 2 months. It only met in November, both of those committees. And I'm concerned about our district and housing and homeless people. Why is that happening? It feels divisive. So please, I emphasize that we have chairs for those committees and that they not meet at the same time as the environmental committee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Westerdall. Okay, all right, so that completes, let me see. Well, and before I make that mistake, are there any other chairs present that I did not call? And I apologize in advance if I didn't call you. Okay, seeing none, That completes all the the committee chair check-ins. We have the one action item from Education Library, which we'll consider after my chairperson's report. We are now going to move on in the agenda. We are going to go to the administrative office check-in.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I will be brief. As I mentioned, every month, the district office is open by appointment only. You can schedule appointments by emailing or calling the office. I wanted, and which
That's my baby.
Hold on. Okay. So sorry about that. So something that I had mentioned earlier, we have been receiving complaints that folks are unable to find the agenda. To try to mitigate this issue, we have moved the agenda to the top of the specific meeting on the calendar. So if you go into our calendar today, November 16th, and you click exec meeting, the agenda is going to be on the very top. So we've moved it to the very top. Hopefully that will help address the issues people are finding or having with finding the agenda. If you continue to have these issues, please don't hesitate to reach out to the board office so we can try to figure out exactly how we can resolve that issue. The next thing that is kind of something that came up in the Environmental Protection Committee was composting. As all of you probably know, every Friday, the farm stand is out in front of the now closed Associated Market from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. On Fridays. I have sent over a request to Grow NYC, who also do composting, and they have confirmed that at least the coming weeks, a composting section will also be out there. So if you know any individuals who are looking for composting to be able to take their materials, they can go to the farm stand on Friday in front of the old Associated between 9 and 3 p.m. For their composting. So that will be there, and that will be there every Friday with the farm stand. The next thing is earlier today, and I do apologize to everyone. I just want to make sure that this letter, well, the process that we're trying to create is clear and concise. Today, we sent out, the board office sent out the event/program and budget request letter to all of the chairs and to all the board members. I want to encourage all of the chairs and all the board members to please read in its entirety the request letter. Before submitting questions, we tried to make it as thorough as possible. Please read through, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to the board office. With submitting a budget request from the committees for events or programming that they're interested in doing, there's two separate ways that you can submit that to the board office. You can submit it via the Excel sheet that you received today. Also in the same email, there is a hyperlink where you can also fill out the budget request via Google form. So you can do it two ways. Sometimes Excel can be rather complicated with its functions. So whichever way is best and is most conducive for the committee, please use that template to plan the events that you're looking to do in the coming month and for the rest of the community board session. Let's see, what else? For the committee chairs, the month of December can be rather difficult to schedule some of the committee meetings. So we're going to be circling back with you in this week and next week just to confirm the dates for the committee meetings in December. So that gives us ample time to be able to disseminate that information to the public. So just look out for an email from the board office. Let's see, the next thing I want to talk about is the website, the new website that we're in the process of creating is almost finished. Again, I do suggest if anyone who has any types of suggestions about the information that should go on the website, please email the board office. A couple other things I just wanted to touch on. We have been receiving emails on the weekend. This is a government agency, so like many agencies, the board office is usually closed on the weekend. I would encourage you, if you need immediate assistance from the board office, please try to get us an email or a phone call, preferably earlier in the day on Friday. But I just wanted to make it clear, on the weekends, sometimes the staff, they're doing what they need to do. And so we don't get to some emails on Monday. So if you really need us, try to send us emails, preferably earlier in the day on Friday, so we can assist you in whatever it is that you need help with. I want to pose a recommendation to change the executive and general board meetings in December to December 14th for the executive and general, and December 16th for the general board. The first week of December is Hanukkah, and so the holidays makes it relatively tough to do the scheduling. And so we've looked at the calendar for the month of December, and we think that December 14th and December 16th, respectively, for the executive and general board meetings would give enough time for committees to meet, submit their minutes to the board office. So the executive meeting is prepared, and then we'll have the general board. So that's a recommendation, and I will leave that into the hands of the board. I also just wanted to quickly say, I want to thank everyone who submitted information for the district needs statement that was submitted to DCP. And once it's finalized, that will without a doubt go up on our website, go in our weekly e-blast. And if anyone is interested in that document specifically, they can reach out to the board office requesting that information. And the last thing that I wanted to mention, because it did come up in the general board, or maybe the exec, I think it was the general board last month. As I've mentioned in, I think the first, every general board meeting this year, the same type of expenditures that we had last year are just not going to happen this year due to the fact that this board finally has a full-time DM. But I want to keep the board appraised of where we're at financially. Right now, in our uncommitted right now, we have $10,602.24 in our operational budget. So that's where we sit financially as the board. I think this is extremely important to bring up, considering that the budget request letter was sent out earlier, and we want to give ample time to the committees to plan accordingly, reach out to whomever they need to reach out to get quotes for certain items, certain materials, certain resources, certain services. So we can fully read the proposal at hand and then approve accordingly. So I just wanted to let the board know that's where we sit financially. Please use the budget request form as a planning tool, right? I think that it will also, I think it will speed the process up of planning these events. And so you all have that in your inbox. If you have any questions about the budget request letter that was sent out today, please do not hesitate to reach out to the board office if you need any explanations.
Okay, thank you very much, Dante. We will take a couple of brief questions for the district manager at this time. Okay, I am not seeing any. I did hear one potential action item from the recommendation to move the exec and the general board meetings for December.
Ms. Boyd does have her hand up.
Okay, we'll take that one. We'll take the question, and then we're going to close on Ms. Boyd.
I know that you put the agenda on top of the calendar, but how is anybody supposed to know that by clicking on the calendar, they'll be able to get to the agenda? It's not necessarily intuitive. It's just a calendar. So as I've said before, and I don't see why this position is not, there should be their own tab when you open up the community board. There should be a tab for agendas because, you know, the open meetings law does require that you have to post them anyway. And then people won't have to try to figure out that a calendar has their agenda. So that's my suggestion, because again, it's not intuitive. Like, oh, there's a calendar, so there has to be an agenda underneath the calendar. Calendar just indicates when a meeting is going to happen, not necessarily the paperwork that's connected to it.
Duly noted. I do not disagree one bit. That is exactly why we're doing a new website. And the new website will have a specific tab for agendas.
Okay. Thank you very much. That concludes that. And again, we do have the one action item we'll consider afterwards for the moving of the December dates. And I would remind all the chairs to please make sure you're checking with the district office. Confirm your dates. November and December tend to be notoriously difficult months to schedule because of the holidays. So we please want to make sure that we're able to provide as much advance notice with respect to if meetings are happening, if they're being canceled, or if they're being moved, particularly in light of the fact that we may be rescheduling the December exec and general board meetings. Okay.
Excuse me, Fred, it's Warren. Do we have
Yes.
any action under liquor licenses this month that we need to discuss?
Good question. Dante, are there any liquor licenses that you know have been approved?
If I recall, I think it's one, right, Khalid?
Yes, that's for D Avenue LLC, and my apologies for not following up on this. They are for a renewal, and technically renewals do not need to go before the board in order for them to go through with their license. But yes, the committee did discuss for D Avenue LLC, and we did actually draft, I believe Dante, we might have drafted some correspondence. I will have to look into the office servers to confirm on that one and follow up. So you have my apologies on that one.
No problem. I'll take a look at it.
Okay, noted. Let's just make sure we keep in mind that we put a placeholder for any SLA applications for the November meeting as necessary.
Correct.
Okay, all right. We're going to move into item 5, the chairman check-in. This is probably going to be a little bit briefer than I even thought it was going to be, because I think a number of the items have actually been covered through other reports. Let me go first. So yes, so one of the items that we are going to be considering, there will be a vote on that by this committee with respect to if the executive committee is approving the education and library book giveaway. It is currently scheduled for December 18th. It was voted by the committee. It voted in the affirmative. So it sounds like this is not very resource intensive in terms of this is going to be something in front of the district office. They're going to require tent tables, nominal items in terms of funding. So I think this is something that we would be able to support as a board. We'll be able to ask additional questions once we put it to the floor as a motion in support of. Next item with respect to the New York City lien sale. So again, so this is something that was mentioned in the Housing Committee, and it was mentioned again at the Euler. So the intent was originally, and usually the intent is to have these things go through the committees and have them actually develop the plans in terms of how they want to address. But because of the time frames, it was not going to be possible for Housing to actually review the matter and actually come up with an action plan that we could actually implement and try and see if we can get it out to the community. So in conversation with the district office, and you should have seen some notices go out between last week Friday and I believe yesterday another blast went out where they compiled a list of the different workshops and resources that we have been made aware that they are available. So we are going to continue to do that. So it's going to be continually blasted out. I think we're also going to try and put the links up. So if there are residents who are interested in seeing what properties are there, or if you think your property might be in jeopardy, you'll be able to go there and check, as well as go and see what options are available to you as a homeowner if you were in arrears with respect to any taxes, water bills or anything, or property taxes or anything else. Additionally, I did speak with the district office and they did reach out to the Department of Finance. So we understand that they have already had a number of workshops that they're offering with respect to that. So Dante did reach out to the Department of Finance to see if they would be able to provide a resource for us to do our own workshop with respect to the lien sales. So because of the pressing in time, we're looking to see if we could do this in very early December, where we would have this. This would be something primarily for the district, for any residents. So either residents who are in trouble or residents who want to understand the process better will be able to come, ask the Department of Finance directly what the options are, and hopefully be able to give good information to the people who need it. So when when the district office gets that information, we'll make sure we're getting that out. But again, we're making sure that it's a full court press in terms of we're using all of our resources, constant contact. Dante, are you able to put it up on our website as well?
Yeah, we can do it.
Yeah, up on the website as well. And we encourage everyone to please share with your networks in terms of if it's you or if it's somebody you think may need that information, to please make sure you're passing that on. All right, with respect to the Dsa application, so again, I think we have most of that information. So this is something that was decided since 2010. I think there were a couple of other items that were looked at. So some of the questions we have, we want to understand what the position of the board is, or we want to understand what the requirement is in terms of action is for the board at this time. This was an application that was already approved. The request is for an extension. So typically, I know the board would respond for an application that is currently being processed. As this is processed, and this is more of a technical requirement in terms of asking for additional time, we want to make sure we understand clearly what the requirement of the board is at this time. Are we required to do a hearing, or how we should, how we would engage and weigh in on the matter as necessary. So when we have that information, we'll make sure we share that with the Euler committee, and we'll be able to proceed. We'll figure out how we're going to proceed from that standpoint. All right. Bear with me 1 second. Oh, nominations committee. So we are currently without a secretary for the board. I am happy to announce that we have appointed 5 members of the board to serve as the nominations committee. Those members are Ms. Melanie Lewis, Mr. Nicholas Almanor, Ms. Rosemary Evering, Ms. Mina Lagut, and oh gosh, what's the 4th?
Mr. Dexter Roberts.
Mr. Dexter, forgive me, please. Forgive me, please. And Mr. Dexter Roberts. So those 5 members of the board will be responsible for convening the process for electing a board secretary to fill the remainder of the term until May, June, when we have our normal board elections. So that announcement will also be made at the general board meeting, and that committee will be convening to develop the process and canvass the board to find candidates for the position. Let me start now by thanking them for their dedication and for committing the time to do this. And also I want to say that, we're definitely going to make sure that you are fully supported from the executive committee and from the district office team as well, to make sure that you have the information you need and we're able to help your communications be as effective as possible. All right, last item going back is with respect to the Fenimore Street Block Association. So as was discussed, this was a conversation that happened in Euler a number of years ago, between 2016 and 2017. So it's roughly 5 years when this conversation happened. This was something that went to the Euler committee. It was discussed there and it was approved there. From there, it did come to the full board. It was discussed in the full board, and the board voted to become a co-applicant on the application. The application calls for that southern portion of Fenimore to be downzoned. It is currently part in R6, whereas right across the street from it on the northern side of the block, it is in R2. Additionally, there are deed restrictions on that side of the street, which part of the reason why they wanted the rezoning is because the deed restrictions are only enforceable through litigation, which becomes very expensive, and it means that every time somebody comes onto the block, they need to spend the money for lawyers to do that. So they were looking for an option to make sure that the character of the neighborhood was preserved in that respect. So they approached the board. That was voted on and approved by the board for them to go from an R6 to an R2. Since then, there were several delays. One of them that was mentioned was with respect to the project manager who was in charge of that was removed. Additionally, I know that there's some administrative challenges on their side. From preliminary conversations with City Planning Commission, I understand there were some other issues in terms of the documentation who was in charge of it, where certain materials were placed as well. So some of that was being reconstructed. So CB9 is set as a co-applicant on the application. At the Euler meeting this month, as was mentioned, a motion was made by the committee to create a subcommittee which would be responsible for oversight. And as was mentioned as well, for a letter to be sent making that request to the Department of City Planning. With respect to that, I did add at that time that I did have reservations with respect to the motion and its appropriateness. I continue to have those issues with that motion in that it is at the wrong level. Committees, they have they create their plans, they create the action plans and make the recommendations to the executive committee, which reviews those and has the oversight function in terms of understanding those, making referrals back if there are questions about appropriateness or any other technical issues as well. Once approved by the executive committee, then it goes before the full board and it will be voted on. When matters are voted by the full board, they become matters for the full board. So the question is whether the subcommittee on the committee level is appropriate. And I hold that it is not. That is the actual proper function of the executive committee. I think that question was asked earlier. What are we supposed to do? Part of the function of the executive committee is to provide those kinds of oversights on matters decided by the board. So at this time, I will entertain a motion for the establishment of the subcommittee to be set aside and to establish the executive committee is responsible for oversight over the application for Fenimore Blocker Street Association application.
So moved. So moved.
I have it moved by Warren Burke. Do I have a second? I call for a second time. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Francisco Leopold. All right, it's been moved and seconded. We will consider this matter shortly. We will have discussion on this. The next item that I do want, before we go into discussion on this, let's establish the different voting items we have. The other one was with respect to the Education Library book giveaway program for December 18th. I will entertain a motion at this time to approve the committee's proposed program for the and support it to be held on December 18th. Do I have a motion
to approve the program?
I have a motion by Francisco Leopold.
Second.
I have a second by Nicholas Almanor. Okay, we will entertain discussion on that momentarily. Last item for consideration by this board as well is with respect to, I'm sorry, I'm losing my own place here. The recommendation of the district manager, the district office, to move the December executive committee meetings and general board meeting to December 4th and December 16th, respectively. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Okay, I have it moved by Francisco Leopold. Do I have a second? I call again.
Second.
Do we have a second?
I second.
I have a second by Warrenberg. And I have a second by Warrenberg. So it's been moved and seconded. Okay, we are now going to go into the discussion of the matters on the floor. Let's do it in this order. Let's take the last one first. With respect to the moving of the recommendation to move the committee dates, the board meeting dates. Are there any questions?
No questions for me. I know because of the era we have had a lot of, I'm sorry that I'm behind the camera, so I apologize. We have had a lot of issues in the past, with the holidays. And I think taking that stand, it makes it a little bit better for us that we don't have to, reschedule and go all over the place. So I don't have any questions. I'm okay with that.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we are going to now have the vote. So all those in favor of the motion to move the December executive committee meeting and the general board meeting to the 14th and the 16th respectively, please say aye.
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 Aye. Are there any opposed? I hear no opposition. Are there any abstentions? Okay, hearing no abstentions, the motion carries. Please let the record reflect that all members voted in favor of the application, of the move. So that's completed. Next one is for the adoption of the Education Library book giveaway for December 18th. Are there any questions with respect to that motion? Yes, Dante.
Move for unanimous consent.
Yeah, Melanie, obviously depending on what the committee decides, we'll talk offline just to see if we can figure out a date. You know, make sure the 18th is good, but in the event that something comes up like terrible weather, you know, maybe we can move it to another date that's acceptable.
Is it indoors or where is it? I think I missed it as to the location because I know it's very cold and it's getting colder outside.
It is, but I was born a New Yorker and I don't mind putting on my warm jacket. I'm one of those old school New Yorkers where we had to go to school no matter what the weather was. But yeah, no, we're looking to do it right in front of the community board office. We'll have the tent up yeah, we'll just go from there.
Hot chocolate and bagels?
Yeah, well, hot chocolate. I can't promise the bagel. Maybe we'll get a nice one of our mini bagel shops now in the community to be able to donate that.
Okay, all right. I don't think I heard any objections there. So, all right. So listen, with that being said, I think we'll call the question. All those members of the executive committee in favor of approving the proposal to have the book giveaway on December 18th, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? Please unmute and make sure you speak to the mic. Any opposed? Seeing none, are there any abstentions? Anyone who wishes to abstain from the vote? Seeing none, we will record for the record, all members of the executive committee voted in favor. Thank you very much.
I just want to make one comment to Melanie. In as much as I would want to support, but the day is a Sabbath. So I just want to let you know that I will not be available.
Yes, I did think about that. Yes, I understand. Thank you.
Okay, understood. So I know that was definitely the date that was put forward that was available. If that date really doesn't work, I think we're comfortable in saying that it's possible for you to select a rain date as well, if that's helpful. But we'll leave that for you and the committee to work with the district office to determine the date. Okay. All right. Okay, we're going to the last item now. So defendant for the street application with the motion to set aside the subcommittee vote and to refer the matter to the executive committee for oversight. Discussion. We will have discussion on that. Are there any questions from the board members with respect to this?
Hi, it's Warren. Go ahead, Francesca.
Thank you, Warren. The clarity as to why it's been referred to the executive, because I think that I missed that explanation.
Right. So the motion was made in Euler for the subcommittee to be established with oversight there, and that the members of that subcommittee would be invited to any meetings and would be in attendance for that. The issues that stand with that are one, the subcommittee, because this is something that went through the committee, it was voted on by the board, it's a board matter. So the appropriate place for oversight for board matters would be the executive committee. So that's where that would happen in terms of that. Additionally, with respect to that, in terms of, just even, to put the point to it even further, with respect to that, the representatives of the board would be the chair and would be the district manager. the chair as the spokesperson of the board, and the district manager as the administrative officer of the board. So there is no authorization for me to negotiate. The authorization is only for me to make sure that the decision of the board is executed. The board had decided only on the reduction from the R6 to the R2. That is the only topic of discussion. If there is anything that is outside the scope of that, that is the oversight, and it comes back to the executive committee to discuss whether it's something that's approved, and if it's something that is acceptable or not acceptable, then that goes to the full board. But that oversight responsibility very clearly, it belongs to the executive committee. Hence the reason why the motion was put forward.
And this
Did I say a question?
the meeting that will take place is only with DCP, that they have to be aware and of every meeting and be present. That's with DCP.
Right, correct. So with DCP with respect to the application, so if there are any meetings, the representatives of the board would be the chair and the district manager. And
Okay.
all those findings are reportable to the executive committee and the board, and the board in general through that as well.
Okay. My next question, who is the chair for Euler?
There currently is no chair for ULURP. The chair hasn't been appointed yet.
Okay.
So that is something that is pending right at this point.
Okay. Because I was wondering what happened to the chair, why the chair couldn't be part of that committee. Okay, thank you.
Exactly. And just to that point, I mean, even in light of the fact, even if there was a chair, as the matter is a board matter, that's a decision that was made by the board. The appropriate person for that would be the board spokesperson.
Okay.
And the district managers. That's the reason why the motion is put as it is.
Thanks for the clarification.
Absolutely. Okay. Are there any other questions from the exec? Okay. Seeing none, we will call the question. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Please say aye.
Aye.
That shit I ate for 3 damn days.
I know. And then
Oh,
I
I'm
was
sorry.
thinking about the
Carmen, I'm sorry, do you have a
I
question?
did enjoy them too.
Carmen, did you have a question?
Chicken fingers with the sauce.
Okay. I'm sorry, Carmen, we need to mute. Okay. So I'm sorry. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Aye. All right. All those members opposed, please say no or say nay. I don't hear any board members in opposition. All those executive committee members who abstain, please indicate that you abstain. I hear no abstentions. Let the record reflect that the motion carried. Okay, so we had those three motions which have passed. It's reflected. It will be reflected in the records. At this time, we are now going to move on in the agenda. We are now going to move on in the agenda to actually establishing the agenda for the November meeting. So the agenda, as I understand it at this time, will be for the public session, be the welcome call to order and rules of conduct. We're going to put a placeholder for the presentation. We'll decide if it's better for this month or if we move to December. So the one presentation I understood was from transportation, and that was to have DOT come and present with respect to the Washington Avenue project. Is that correct, Carmen? And that would be 15 minutes.
Yes, yes, I'm sorry, yes.
No problem. So that'll be 15 minutes. Okay. After that would be Sla Applications. My understanding is we have one application currently on And so we'll put the placeholder for that. You'll get us the information, or you'll include that as part of the agenda, correct?
That is, yes, correct.
Okay. Okay, after that, we will have public commentary. And then we will have acknowledgements. Then we're going to move into the business session. We are going to have, roll call. We're going to have approval of the minutes. We will have committee reports. I would remind all the chairs, and we will remind all the chairs, all your reports, I believe, are already written, have already been submitted. Those packages will be sent out in advance and they'll be posted on the website. So unless you have a high level point that you need to, or announcements you need to make, we would ask that your report stand as written. If you do have a verbal report to make, please limit the comments to a minute, minute and a half, okay? Because we need to make sure that we move the agenda. Okay, after the committee reports, we're going to have the district manager's report. We will also have the chairperson's report. We will have voting items. We will have this is the voting items. After the voting items, we will have any old business. We will have new business. And then we will have call for adjournment. Okay, are there any additions that should be made to this agenda, as I stated?
I don't have an addition. May I ask a question, or should I wait until you through?
Does that have to do with the agenda, or?
Yes.
Okay, no, you can ask the question now then.
Yeah, and something that have been on my mind, because I noticed that we usually have voting items or at the ending. Is there a reason why we cannot move it up on the agenda, that it has to wait until the ending? Because sometimes some persons who come before the board and they're waiting for the results, some would stay and some, and sometimes there's so much happening, and I don't think that it is fair to them and that they have to wait until the ending, to vote on what the items. I mean, if it's a voting item concerning the board, I don't have an issue, but I think that we should. I'm just asking, is there a reason why we can't move higher up in the agenda?
Well, part of the reason why I think the voting items end up being a little bit lower down is because there are a number of reports that should be heard, should be provided to the community and to the board members. And I think we run the risk, if you do it way sooner in the agenda, you lose everybody and you don't get to the rest of the agenda. So it makes sure that the information that needs to be provided to the board, the conversations that need to happen, the information they need to have, they get. And then we go into the business piece of it and we decide any action items. We make sure we satisfy any action items.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Right. So to that point,
I had a
feeling
that was the reason why, but I just wanted to.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that is a reason. That is a reason why. But that's part of the reason why I asked as we consider as well. We keep the agenda short. We keep the report short. If there's anything unnecessary that we really don't need or we can defer, we can do that as well. The only item I would have said is the DOT presentation, but you know what? I think December gets even worse, so we might as well do it in November. And I think especially one Sla application, I think it's more manageable.
Is it possible, if I may say,
like when a committee have an action item in their report, can the vote be taken right away after that report? And you do it as we go along?
Part of it is, I'm not sure if it's 6 of one, half a dozen of another. If you do it 5 minutes earlier or 5 minutes later, it's still 10 minutes. Because all we're doing is skipping to another item, but we're still gonna have to cover it anyway. So I think it's sometimes just easier to just address all those items at one time, just hit all 4, if it's 2 or 3 voting items, we just do the voting 2 or 3 times and then we're done. Okay.
And
Are there any-
Mr. Chair, based on the voting items, and I know some of the voting items we can't do them just by I or whatever. But I think that there are some of the voting items we don't necessarily have to do a roll call for all of them. That we can just go and here and there, and because I think that it takes so much time. If you have 3, 4, 5 voting items that you do a roll call for all of them, it really takes up time. Because some of the persons, they have their phones muted. Some of the persons, they walk away, and you have calling and then go back to calling them. It really, it's a.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a point well taken. So to those votes, I try and do the voice votes for the ones that I think are a little bit less controversial, that we don't need that. So definitely to that point, we'll do the voice votes. We try and divide them so that way at least you identify all those who are in favor, who's in opposition, and who's abstaining. So we'll probably try and do that where the roll call will be, we're going to be recording those opposite votes. But we're going to try and move it. We're trying to make it quicker and avoid like full calling of the roll each time. Okay. Are there any questions with regards to the agenda, additions, deletions? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as put forward.
So moved.
I have it moved by Nicholas Almanor. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Francisco Leopold. All right, all those members of the executive committee in favor of adopting the agenda as stated, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All those in opposition, please say nay. Call again. All those in opposition, please say nay. Okay, I call at this time. Any members who wish to abstain from the vote, please say I abstain. Indicate that you abstain. Call for a second time. Any members who wish to abstain from the vote, please indicate that you abstain. Seeing none, the ayes carry. The record will reflect that the agenda has been adopted by the executive committee. All right, at this time, do we have any other business for the executive committee at this time?
And then again, I'll say it's not really a business. I just want to make a statement because I have been hearing this complaint. I don't know if I'm in order in bringing that up at this point, but there's been all this complaint over and over from the community as well, I think from persons who are on the board as well. And then I think that is something that people have to come up here with, that a lot of community boards, there are community boards. This is the format that they run their meetings, just the way that we are running it. And I find it that it's strange. I attended, I had to do a presentation at one of the community boards, and then they called me and they said, whoever was coming with you, if you have an assistant with you, we needed the person's number, we need the person's email address, your email address, and everything, so we could send the link for you. So when you're ready, and then you'll bring in you as a panelist. So if you don't send this, then you'll not be, you wouldn't be able to bring you in. So just the format. And so this is not the only community board who is doing this. There are other community boards and there are other organizations who's doing this. And I think the same thing that they were experiencing with the interruptions and the constant interruptions. And even as we're saying this right now, even in this format that we are using, we are still having interruptions. It's still causing chaos. So, I mean, it eliminates a lot and allow us to move the agenda and move on with our meeting. And I just want to say it again, this is not something that this committee would just jump up with. I do understand what people are saying. You want to see the persons, but then there are persons who are genuine and they sit and they listen, they contribute, whatever they need to say, they will say it and we move on. But the constant bickering and interruption, then it leads us to be able to follow this format. So I know board members complain, community members complain, but we are not the only ones who's using this format. Other organizations and community use this format as well. Just wanted to put this out there.
Okay, thank you for that comment.
I will informally second that with that testimony. I think that people forget often that we held a hearing, a public hearing regarding 960 Franklin using the webinar format, and over 800 people registered for it. So I think that speaks volumes to itself. So people know how to use this system. It works. We had over 200 people show up to the hearing itself. So this system works. The agenda gets moved. Business is happening. Let's continue the work.
Okay, thank you. And as always, I always encourage as well. Listen, part of the one thing I think we recognize is that this whole thing is not perfect. But I think and I really tip my hat to the district office team in terms of we do our best to try and be responsive. So if there's feedback, if you know that there is an issue or you had an issue, please relay that to the board as well. So that way they can, the district office team can try and troubleshoot to see if there's something that's going on or if there's additional information we need to be providing as well. But it goes back to, I think that this is the standard in terms of we are a New York City agency. The majority of New York City agencies operate in this function. But of course, like I said, we will continue to try and improve wherever we can, and we take all feedback and suggestions. With that being said, I think that seeing no other business, I want to thank everyone for your time this evening. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone at the general board meeting next week on the 23rd. Yeah, so I look forward to seeing everybody. Is there another mic on? I'm sorry.
On the 23rd?
Yes. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yes, on the 23rd, correct. Next week,
okay,
Tuesday,
sorry.
the
So I was
23rd.
looking at December, sorry.
No problem. So
Yeah.
next week on the 23rd. At this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn by
second it.
Francisco Leopold.
Elise Robinson,
How you doing,
second
Elise?
it.
Well, actually, I need an executive committee member to second it. For that.
Second.
I apologize.
No worries. No worries. Do I have a seconded by Nicholas Almanor. All right. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I hear a majority. We are now adjourned. The time is now 9:28 p.m. Everyone, thank you. Take care.
Yeah, good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Dexter, I am giving thanks with you as well.